So hello guys, and welcome to another tier list video. And today, Dimentio and I will be ranking some Mario villains, and basically, our criteria for what counts as like a Mario villain is basically any notable character that's either the main antagonist, appears a lot throughout the game, or has appeared in multiple games. And there's a wide variety of villains here. Nintendo doesn't always like to use these villains, but there are like a lot of interesting ones here, and I feel like part of the inspiration for this tier list is Thousand Year Door and Peach Showtime, since Peach Showtime introduced a really cool new villain, and Thousand Year Door also has some interesting villains as well. But let's go ahead and get into this. So
this is going to be pretty fun, and you can see that the Mario series has a ton of villains, even though it just seems like it just has Bowser and the Koopalings. And if you know, Bowser Jr. and only Bowser Jr.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, starting off, we have Donkey Kong. So, Donkey Kong is an interesting case, because, like, he's both a hero and a villain, depending on the game that he's in. And I'm honestly not sure where to rank him, because I mean, like, in the games that he's in, I think he's a pretty cool antagonist, I would say. Like, I definitely think he fits his role pretty well in games like Mario vs. Donkey Kong, DK94, and different things like that. And also the original Donkey Kong is very iconic. One of the most iconic kind of villains, I would say, in terms of, like, things. But yeah, I think Donkey Kong is pretty interesting, and was definitely kind of a good start to, like, just everything in general. What would you say?
I would say with Donkey Kong, like you said, very interesting case, because he's the first Mario villain, and it's funny because the whole Mario series is technically a spin-off of Donkey Kong, but looking at him as a villain, it's an interesting dynamic between him and Mario, where he's not evil at all, he's just goofy and likes to mess with Mario. I don't know if it's still canon, but he was Mario's pet, and you know that it's not a good idea to have pet primates. But
yeah,
with his role in the original Donkey Kong, I mean, he just kidnaps Pauline, and it's not like he has any ulterior motives or anything, he's just, like, messing with Mario. And same can kind of be said, he usually just does silly things, like taking the toys in Mario vs. Donkey Kong. So in terms of a rival, it's like just like a frenemy thing. I can easily see Mario and Donkey Kong grabbing a beer after a game, but also going back to a rivalry. That's kind of how a lot of Mario villains are, but just because of how iconic he is, I have to say he goes in none other than S tier.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe, like, for me, probably, like, A or B, because, like, I mean, as a character, of course he would go in S, but as a villain, I was thinking, like, I'm thinking, like, S would definitely be fitting, but I was thinking more so, like, A tier, because, like, as a character, well, definitely he would be an S, but, like, as, like, a villain, I feel like there are some Mario villains that kind of, like, would outshine him, I would say.
I gotta say, if you're debating between A and B, and I chose S, I think A is a fitting category.
Yeah, I think A is probably pretty good, because he's very iconic, but I would say, like, some Mario villains later on are just really good and, like, really kind of well written in their respective games. But yeah, so moving on, we have Foreman Spike. And this character is actually surprisingly relevant now because of the Mario movie, and also Wrecking Crew 98 being on Nintendo Switch Online, which was very surprising. But Foreman Spike, I would say, like, he's pretty obscure, but I think he's pretty interesting as well. Like, he seems like almost like a precursor to, like, Wario and Waluigi in some ways, but has kind of, like, I mean, it's just kind of hard to kind of, like, gauge how he is as a character, because, I mean, like, really the only, like, concrete, like, character that we've seen of, like, Foreman Spike is in the movie, and I actually really like how he's written in the movie. But
I do too. And it's funny because T&D says he looks like my uncle, which he kind of does. So if you're watching this, Foreman Spike looks like you. But as a villain, I would say that he probably goes into B because he's a cool villain, even though he doesn't do much. But you gotta keep in mind, he only appeared in Wrecking Crew and Wrecking Crew 98, and I believe he was a character in Mobile Golf, which is another Japan-only game.
Yeah.
So he's incredibly obscure outside the movie, but mainly because of his role in the movie and his design, I think he should deserve B tier.
Yeah, B tier is pretty fitting, I would say. And I hope he makes a comeback because, like, I mean, since he was in the movie, they put Wrecking Crew 98 on NSO, I really hope he appears in more games, kind of like Pauline. I think it would be really cool, like, to see him as, like, one of the mainstays. But, yeah. So moving on, we have undoubtedly the most popular and iconic one here, Bowser. I mean, I feel like Bowser's placement should be no question. I feel like he should definitely be in S tier, honestly, because, like, he has had so many, like, amazing iterations in each of the games. Like, in the Paper Mario series, for instance, he's written really well, and is just, like, fleshed out really well. I know a lot of the time people say that, like, Bowser is just overused, and I mean, that is true in some cases, but I feel like Bowser is, like, adapts really well to different types of games, and I just feel like he just has, like, quite a lot of variety as a character, I would say, and is definitely one of the most iconic villains of all time.
I would say that Bowser, yeah, he definitely deserves to be an S tier. I mean, he's the iconic Mario villain. When you think of Mario's rival, you think of Bowser more than anybody else. And yeah, he's been used so much, and I feel like for mainline games, it would be cool to either see a returning villain or a brand new villain entirely. But like you said, he adapts very well to different kinds of games, and even serves as a really cool supporting character.
Yeah.
When Mario RPGs have him as a playable character, that's always one of the highlights. But the placement, what more can be said? You know what? I think it should just be called Bowser tier.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, I'll just keep it for S tier for now, because there's definitely some other S tier, type villains that I'm gonna mention later on. But, yeah, so, moving on, we have another kind of obscure one. I wouldn't say quite as obscure as Foreman Spike. Well, maybe, but, like, at least Wart was in a mainline Mario game, but Wart is really interesting. Like, he really hasn't appeared, like, nearly at all in other Mario games since Super Mario Bros. 2. I mean, yes, he was in Link's Awakening, but that's a Zelda game?
I don't think that counts.
Yeah, but...
Does he even exist is the question.
Yeah, it's weird, like, because, I mean, yeah, he's technically in a dream, and that's also the case for Link's Awakening. Like, he's only, like, in a dream in that game as well, but I like his design. I think his design is pretty cool, and I like the fact that, he was originally kind of associated with, like Shy Guys, Pokies, Sniffits, and the different, like, enemies that were in Super Mario Bros. 2, because they were called the 8 bits. I think that's cool, how he has, like, his own, like, villain group with that, but honestly, I think Wart is another character that I'd like to see, like, come back at some point. It's surprising that they didn't bring him back in Mario and Luigi Dream Team, considering, like, the whole theming surrounding that game, but I think Wart is pretty interesting. I'm not sure if I would put him in, like, either B tier or C tier. I'm just not sure, because I really like his design, but he's just, like, really obscure as well.
I would say that a good tier to put Wart in would probably be B. He has a great design, but considering he was only used in one game, not counting remakes, I mean, what higher place can be placed in if he doesn't really do much?
Yeah.
You know who I wish was only in one game? The one coming up next. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we have a whole tier for this one, but yeah, of course we'll put it in Boom Boom.
Okay, I just want to say this about Boom Boom. First of all, I like his design, so I'll give him that. But the boss fights? Do they even qualify as boss fights? You literally jump on him 3 times, and he gives you so much time to react.
Honestly,
you can literally just take him out in 10 seconds.
Like,
you could probably take out Boom Boom in the time it would take to fart.
Yeah,
that's how pathetic he is.
Yeah, and there's actual regular enemies that could be taken out in a longer time than Boom Boom, like Charge and Chucks and different things like that. Or I guess like there's like a few of them, but like Boom Boom is like almost just like a glorified regular enemy, basically. And like I mean, even though his design is like somewhat interesting, I feel like ever since like 3D Land, I feel like he does kind of look a bit generic, I would say. Like, he seems just like a regular kind of like Kuupa type character, just like not really that interesting. Like, I feel like it just seems like a very new Super Mario Bros-esque design, if you know what I mean. It seems like it's basically like the Koopalings or Bowser Jr., but without everything that makes the Koopalings or Bowser Jr. interesting.
Yeah, I would say that, and I guess him replacing Critter in Super Mario Strikers or Mario Strikers Battle League as a goalie, that certainly didn't help matters, now did it? So yeah, Boom Boom is fitting in being in the lowest of the low.
Yeah, so moving on, we actually have the Koopalings, and we have them split into different, all split in separate categories since, I mean, I think that's pretty fitting, since I have opinions on each Koopaling. But starting with Lemmy, I kind of like Lemmy, I would say. I like how he has, like, the whole gimmick with his ball and everything. And I always like his boss fights. I mean, as a character, I would say he's one of the less interesting Koopalings, I would say. But still a pretty decently good character, I would say.
I'd say I like Lemmy more than you do. I like his whole circus motif. I think he's fun. He's one of my favorite Koopalings and one of the more memorable ones. I would personally rank him in A tier.
Okay, I would, do you think a good compromise would be, like, B tier, a little above Wart?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, because, I mean, I like him, but, like, I have, like, some Koopalings that I definitely prefer more. Okay, so now moving on to Larry. I don't know.
I mean, he's Larry. You know he was named Larry just because he looked like a Larry, while the other Koopalings have backstories behind their names? I mean, I love Larry's design, and Larry holds a special place in my heart because he was the first character I ever played as in Mario Kart 8. So, there's that. And I like the blue hair, how it looks kind of like a feather, but at the same time, it's Larry.
Yeah, it's also just, it's the most, this is a Koopaling, basically. Like, it's just like, when I think of the Koopalings, this is, like, probably one of the last ones that I think of, honestly.
Yeah, I'd say C tier would be fitting.
Yeah. So moving on to Iggy, I like his design. Well, I like his original design more, with the more colorful hair, but I still think he's pretty cool. Like, I kind of like... I like his boss fights. I like the whole
kind of weird mad scientist thing, and the boss fights are pretty fun. Especially in New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I would say, yeah, he's above Lemmy, or he's above Larry, but a little bit below Lemmy.
Okay, yeah, I would say that's fair. So moving on to Wendy, I think Wendy's also a pretty decently good Koopaling as well. I think her boss fights are pretty interesting, especially in the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Not my favorite, but I still think she's a decently good Koopaling.
She kind of has that spoiled brat motif, like Angelica from the Rugrats and DW. Yeah. And I hate those characters usually. But because Wendy isn't so in-your-face about it, I guess I like her more than those characters, but I gotta say that she would probably go into C tier,
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit above Larry, simply because she's more original.
Yeah, I would.
But
Yeah,
I
I
like
would
the
say
other
that
two
probably.
better so
Yeah.
far.
Okay.
Oh boy! Hey, it's Tricky Nick. Is this the Canadian Koopaling? Invalid.
Yeah, I like Morton quite a lot, actually. I like how his personality was kind of fleshed out a little more in Color Splash and Bowser's Inside Story remake. But yeah, he's definitely like, we're kind of getting into the more interesting and unique Koopalings now. But yeah, I think
I would say Morton goes in A.
Yeah.
Below Donkey Kong, but still high tier.
Yeah.
He's just great, and I kind of like the caveman motif he has going on. But we're getting into my favorite now.
Okay, this
Roy's our boy.
Yep, Roy's my favorite too. So
great minds think alike.
Yeah, I like his design, I like his boss fights, I like his personality in the game, like the games where he does have a more fleshed out personality. Even though I don't like Color Splash, I do like how he was portrayed in Color Splash. So I think Roy is a pretty good character, I would say. Like,
he just is cool. He's got the pink shades, he's got the purple shell, and in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I think his signature car is like one of the coolest in the game. So you gotta choose Roy when it comes to the best Koopalings. So he goes in A.
Yep. I would say probably, like, I don't want to put any of the Koopalings above Donkey Kong, honestly, just because of how iconic Donkey Kong is, but yeah, moving on, my second favorite Koopaling, Ludwig, I think he's also an amazing character as well. Like, his boss fights in the new Super Mario Bros. Games are some of the best ones in those games, I would say. And his design is awesome. He's definitely the coolest Koopaling, and is just like a pretty great character in general.
I wouldn't say as cool as Roy, but he's very cool. And if anything, there's consistency where his fights are always the last, so they're the most challenging. And they're always fun. So I would say that he goes above Lemmy.
Okay. Would you say...
Actually, you know what?
I think
maybe he goes a little bit below Morton.
Yeah, I think he deserves A, honestly. But, yeah.
This is a weird one.
Okay. Yeah, moving on to Tonga. I actually kind of like Tatanga, honestly. Like, I mean, even though he doesn't have, like, too big of a presence, like, I mean, he's really only in Mario Land 2, and debatably Wario's Woods, but,
hey, at least you kind of remembered he was in Wario's Woods, but he took on an entirely different role, where he wasn't the villain, he's just like, I'm Tatanga! Step right up! And he's basically just running, like, an amusement park booth.
But
I will say, he's a really cool villain and could have a lot of potential if he was used in a mainline game again.
Yeah.
So I would say that he's definitely more interesting than Wart, but yet again, underutilized.
Yeah, I would say just below Foreman Spike, I would say, honestly, in my opinion. But, yeah. Okay. Wario. That's okay. This is, like, even though he's not the villain in every game, I would say, like, he's still an S-tier character regardless. He still deserves S-tier, honestly.
Here's the thing with Wario. He was the main antagonist of Super Mario Land 2, and that was the coolest thing, but he hasn't been that in any of the mainline Mario games since then, which is why I think Bowser is overutilized.
Yeah.
Because I think that if any villain returns, I think Wario should be the one.
And you know...
And he's a perfect rival for Mario, too.
And the thing is, I still think he should technically be considered a villain as well, in a lot of ways, because, I mean, in the Mario sports games, he still takes on, like, kind of that rival, like, role, and is still, like, somewhat of an antagonist in a lot of scenarios. So...
especially in the GameCube games.
Yeah, and even somewhat in some of the newer Mario sports games as well. So, I think, like, just... I just think Wario is, like, honestly one of my favorite characters of all time, along with Bowser. So, he definitely deserves S tier, honestly. But...
I just hope Nintendo uses him more.
But moving on, another great character that I like, Kamek. I think in the games that he's utilized in kind of shown as a separate Magic Koopa from like the other ones, I think Kamek is a great character. Yoshi's Island, definitely, and I really like his gimmick with like his magic abilities, kind of like making bosses more powerful or making Bowser more powerful. He has a great personality in the Paper Mario games that he's in, and I also liked him in the movie as well. Pretty funny there. A great character in Mario Kart now. Now that he's finally in Mario Kart.
You know, if anyone deserved to be in Mario Kart more than anyone, it's Kamek. Although I will say he's definitely S tier, but there's just one thing about him that I don't quite understand. Why does he just look identical to a regular Magic Koopa? Because Magic Koopas first appeared in Super Mario World, and Kamek is essentially the main Magic Koopa, but they don't really do much to differentiate him.
Yeah. I think what they should do is kind of have, like, have, like, something that kind of make Kamek a little different from the others. Like, maybe make
Even if it's something like having the robe and the hat have, I don't know, stars, or maybe make it a darker blue.
Yeah.
Or a beard. I think a beard might be much.
I was thinking another thing, kind of like, the older Paper Mario games, the Magic Koopas didn't have, like, the white part of their, hat. It was just all blue. So I was thinking some of the Magic Koopas could have, like, their cap be all blue, while, Kamek has, like, the one with, like, the white part on it. So I was thinking
just a little subtle difference.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely say Kamek deserves S tier, like a little below Wario. But yeah. So moving on, we're getting into the Mario RPGs now, starting with Super Mario RPG here. And first, we have Exor here. I mean, Exor is pretty iconic, I would say. Like, he's basically just the centerpiece of, like, the entire game. Like, since he's basically kind of in Bowser's castle, and he's just pretty interesting in general, since he's just like a giant sentient sword, and he's basically like a portal to like another dimension. So it's just a really interesting character. And the boss fight is also pretty interesting as well, since that's the one where you can pull off Geno Whirl.
I would say he's a very interesting character too. He's not one of my favorite Mario RPG characters, even though he's iconic. But I will say, just because of how iconic he is, I would place him in B tier.
Yeah. Should I place him...
The other one, though.
Should I place a little above Foreman Spike, since he has a bit of a larger presence, or,
Honestly, I would place him less.
Okay.
I would place him less than Tatanga.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I guess we'll come to a compromise for that.
That's fair. But Booster, oh yeah, definitely one of the best in the game, honestly. Really iconic, I would say, since he's kind of... I mean, he's pretty similar to Wario in a lot of ways, but he's also a little different as well and has his own unique charm to it. But definitely a pretty funny character, and I really like the whole, like, little mini-story, almost kind of like a Paper Mario chapter within Super Mario RPG, where you have to, like, save Peach from him. So, and, like... The part where they make, like, the wedding scene, where it, like, kisses Mario, and then there's, like, the cake that comes to life, that's, like, a pretty funny and iconic scene. And Booster Tower is also pretty cool as well. I like the fact that he's associated with Snippets as well. I think that's also another cool aspect of him. I definitely think he's a pretty cool character. I would definitely say he's probably A tier.
I would say so too.
Yeah, would you place him above? I'm not sure. Maybe between Roy and Morton.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Moving on, some other villains that I like from Super Mario RPG, the Axum Rangers. This was kind of a start of a thing that they kind of did in the Mario RPGs, where they kind of based, like, different villains or characters, not just villains, but, like, other characters off of, like pop culture icons. Like, the Axum Rangers were based on the Power Rangers, than the the Koopa Bros from Paper Mario. I didn't put them on here since they have a little less of a presence, but they're based on the TMNT, and then there's also Rock Hawk, who's based on Hulk Hogan, apparently. That, at least in some translations of it. And then,
Can you imagine if there was a boss based on Mr. Hogan? To see ya, Mario. You want to hear a story?
But yeah, the Axum Rangers, I would say, are pretty iconic, and honestly, I would say A tier for them as well. Maybe not above Ludwig, but I still think they're kind of worthy of that tier.
I think so too, but which one's your favorite? I'll go first, the pink one.
I would say, maybe the green one, because I kind of like how he slightly resembles Luigi.
I think it's really cool having them based on the Power Rangers.
Yeah. But moving on, I actually really like this villain, even though he doesn't have, like, I mean, yeah, he's mentioned throughout the story, but you don't see him until the end. I still think his overall concept is really cool, and I think he's probably one of the most underrated Mario RPG villains, and that's Smithy. And, like, one, he has a really cool design, and I really like how it has, like, the really kind of creepy, unsettling design for his, like, final phase. But just, like, his whole overall concept is just really cool. Like, the fact that he can kind of, like, just morph himself into, like, different, like, weapons and things, and the fact that he's, like, behind, like, all of this. Like, he built the entire, like, weapon world and all the weapons and everything. I kind of like his concept, like the fact that he's just kind of like that, and just his overall design is pretty cool. I really like Smithy. I think he's pretty underrated, and I hope he comes back at some point, because technically, at the end of Super Mario RPG, he actually technically doesn't fully die. I think it's because in the final area, you see a bunch of, like, Smithy heads. So technically he can rebuild himself.
I think so too, and I think he's a pretty underrated character. Although I will say, I liked how the final boss, it did remind me of a concept from Origami King, but done in the right way. I think we talked about that. But I would put him in A tier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I would say...
Above the Axum Rangers.
Yeah. Would you say above any of the Koopalings in that tier, or just below Ludwig?
I would say that he goes a little bit above Roy.
Okay.
Or maybe a little bit below Roy. Yeah, maybe a little below Roy.
Yeah, that's fair. So moving on, another really cool one, is Coolix. I think Coolix was utilized, like, really well in the remake. Like, with the fact that he has, like, a 3D version of himself and everything that you unlock at the end. That is really cool. And, like, the boss fight itself is just really fun, I would say. Definitely one of the most fun experiences I've had, like, because I really like super difficult bosses sometimes. Like, as someone who plays, like, a bunch of, like, Thousand Year Door, things. But, yeah, I think, like, it definitely adds a lot of challenge. And I think it's just really cool that he's basically, like, a Final Fantasy villain, just, like, appearing in a Mario game. That concept alone is just, like, really interesting.
I think, if anything, he should have been in Mario Sports Mix.
Yeah. That would have been cool if he was, like, in one of the bosses there.
That would have been very cool. But yeah, I gotta say, I do prefer Smithy, but he's still a good villain.
Yeah, I would say maybe, like, just right around the Axum Rangers, I would say an A tier. I'm not sure, maybe a little bit above, just because of due to how good his boss fight is, and just how cool it is to see, like a Final Fantasy style villain in a Mario game. But yeah, I think that's A tier would be fair for Coolix.
Yeah, I would say so too. This is going to be an interesting one.
So yeah, King Bob-omb. I actually really like King Bob-omb. He's my main in Mario Golf Super Rush, and I think I like how he's kind of becoming, like, a playable character in a lot of games. but definitely a pretty iconic character as well, with like being the first boss in Mario 64 and all. But I really like Bob-omb characters in general, like between like the ones in the Paper Mario series and then like just in general, I kind of like Bob-ombs as enemies. So I really like King Bob-omb. I'm not sure where I would rank him though, considering like where we put like some of the others so far. But I wanna hear your thoughts on King Bob-omb.
I mean, his boss fight's one of the weakest in the entire Mario series, but just how iconic he is, and how he's been in some of the spin-offs as a playable character. I gotta say, I think it'd be fair to put King Bob-omb at least in B tier. Maybe above Foreman Spike.
That's fair. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good place to put him.
Or actually, I would put him in A tier.
Yeah.
I'd put him above Kuupa.
Yeah, I think that's good. So, moving on, we have a really weird one here, but Koopa Kids from the Mario Party games. These ones are pretty interesting. A couple of years ago, I was like I was kind of disappointed that they replaced him with Bowser Jr. in Mario Party Superstars, but I mean, even though it would be cool to see him like referenced in another Mario Party game at some point, I feel like his role has basically been like replaced by Bowser Jr. and everything. Like, I mean, I think he's kind of cool and weird in a weird sense. I like that there's like he's kind of like a weird character, but just like kind of looking back, like he's not really that interesting of a character. I think in a kind of a similar sense as Boom Boom, because like I mean, even though Koopa Kid is a pretty, like, weird character, design-wise, he really isn't that interesting. Like, he's just a little too similar to Bowser, the Koopalings, or Bowser Jr. Like, honestly, kind of generic a little bit, kind of looking back. Except for the color variants in a couple of the games. Those were pretty cool, but I don't know. Like, I used to like Koopa Kid a little more, but he's not a bad character at all. But I just feel like his role has kind of been replaced.
I mean, there's no denying his role has been replaced, but I think I like him more than you do. I think he looks like an older version of Bowser Jr., but not quite like Bowser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a weird in-between, and he was only used for the Mario Party games. Definitely one of the weirdest Mario characters, no doubt about that. But the color variations are pretty cool. But is he related to Bowser is the question. He looks like him. You don't know much about his backstory.
He just appears.
Yeah, he's just kind of there. You know what? I would personally put him below Wart, but if you put him in C tier, I wouldn't be too surprised. Or get too defensive.
I think high C tier would be fine. Because I mean, yeah, I still do like Koopa Kid, but yeah, I feel like I do feel like it is kind of a weird case there. Okay, so moving on, we have one of the best Mario characters, another one of the best Mario characters, Waluigi. I mean, even though he isn't really like a main villain in too many games, like he was like the main antagonist in DDR Mario Mix, and he is like an antagonist alongside Wario in some of the Mario sports games. So I still feel like he does count there. But he is just a pretty amazing character in general.
Waluigi is my favorite Mario character. The only thing that would set him back from being higher than other villains is just that he hasn't been utilized. And he hasn't even been in a mainline Mario game. It's unfortunate because I feel like Wario and Waluigi would work perfectly as playable characters or villains in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. But, I don't know. Nintendo just doesn't see it the same way. But he goes in S tier. I would say that he goes at the very top for me, but in all fairness, he probably has to go a little bit below Wario.
Yeah, because honestly, I feel like I love Wario a little more just as a character, because I'm a pretty big fan of Wario, I would say. So I like Wario just slightly more than Waluigi, just because of the fact that I like love the Wario games and everything, and also just Wario as a character. But Waluigi is also excellent as well and deserves S tier. But another very iconic villain, and as you can see here, I included the superior design of this character, the one that should be used in every game. And we have King Boo. So yeah, King Boo is just pretty great in general, I would say. Like,
yeah, I would say that King Boo, he goes in S tier.
Yeah, I would say a little above Kamek, I would say. I do prefer Kamek as a character, honestly, but I would say King Boo, looking objectively and looking at the Luigi's Mansion games, I would definitely say he deserves a placement a little above Kamek. But yeah. So moving on.
I would say so too.
But moving on into Paper Mario, I was actually going to mention this one before, since it released before Luigi's Mansion, but I think it's a good time to talk about it now. So, starting off, we have Kammy Kuupa. I really like Kammy Kuupa, and I think she's definitely pretty underutilized, since she was really only in the original game in Thousand Year Door. I wish she would... honestly, if it was up to me, she would be in every Paper Mario game, because I just, like, her personality is great, her design is great, like, her mechanics in battle are great, like, just a really cool character. And honestly, I would love to see, like, a team-up between Kamek and Kammy. I think that would just be amazing. And honestly, as a character, I would say she's basically tied with Kamek for me. I mean, yeah, obviously, Kamek is much more iconic, but I think I love both characters equally.
Yeah, I would say that Kammy Kuupa is a great character. It's interesting how she's essentially been replaced with Kamek, but she still goes in S tier.
Yeah.
She has a huge importance in the Paper Mario games.
Yeah, so moving on, we have Junior Troopa from Paper Mario 64, and this one is kind of an interesting case, since he's like a recurring character kind of appearing throughout the game, and I feel like he reminds me a lot of Bowser Jr. in a lot of ways, but is also kind of different as well, since he's like kind of more like, he's really just like a newborn Kuupa, basically. And I really like his gimmick. Like, with the fact that he kind of gains different abilities with different battles in the game. Like, at the beginning, like, he hides inside his shell, then he gets, like, the spike and then the wings. I think that's really cool. And it's just a pretty cool... I think he's one of the funniest characters in Paper Mario 64 as well. Like, with his personality and everything. Because he also kind of has a little bit of that, like spoiled brat kind of personality, like, a little bit in him. So, what would you say about
I
Junior
need to
Trooper?
still beat Paper Mario 64, but from what I played, he's a really interesting character. And I do like how, when it comes to baby characters, I mean, this guy is literally a newborn Kuupa, so that's really interesting. But also, yeah, sometimes a spoiled character can be good, especially if they're a villain. It just depends how they're utilized. But I would say he's a pretty good villain.
I would say probably A tier, I would say. Maybe a little above the Axum Rangers, just due to his presence is a little bigger in Paper Mario 64. So, yeah. And I think,
would say above Kuupa.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I would say, like, I mean, he's kind of like a spoiled brat type character, more in line with, like, a bit, kind of like an exaggerated version of Bowser Jr., I would say. So, and I feel like that's kind of utilized well. But yeah, moving on, we have the only Paper Mario character that was represented in a mainline game. I mean, I'm sure there's something very, like, obscure that I might have missed. I know some characters are referenced in Mario Party, like the Star Spirits in Waka, but King Goomba, or Goombas, is the only Paper Mario character that's like in a mainline Mario game with 64 DS. And I think he's pretty cool. Like, definitely not the most interesting boss or character, because I mean, he's definitely like a tutorial boss in Paper Mario, but I like his design, and I like the fact that he's kind of like a king representing the Goombas, kind of like how King Bob-omb is for the like Bob-ombs and everything, King Boo for the Boos, and then also like Womp King as well. So it's kind of like a character kind of like that representing the Goombas. And it's also pretty interesting how he like originally started as a like a regular Goomba, but became like just like a giant King Goomba because of like Bowser and the Star mod. So that's a pretty interesting concept as well. But what are your thoughts on it?
One thing I'm surprised about is that when you mentioned he was a regular Goomba, but then turned into a big Goomba, why wasn't he used in New Super Mario Brothers? Why was it just a regular giant Goomba? That was a bit weird.
Yeah, and it was.
He was in Super Mario 64 DS, and he was in Mario Kart.
Yeah,
DS, so
yeah.
He already had the resources. Very weird.
Yeah, it would have made a lot of sense to have him as the boss. That would have been amazing if he was the boss for that. I'm sure you could mod him into New Super Mario Bros. DS just due to how so many of the assets from 64 DS made their way into New Super Mario Bros. But yeah, where would you say we should rank him?
I would say he goes below King Bob-omb,
Okay.
but he's still really cool.
I would say a little below Junior Troopa, just due to how cool Junior Troopa is as a character, but that's where
Fair.
yeah. But moving on, I would say this is definitely another S tier character due to how iconic he is. But Bowser Jr. is just a great character. Like in honestly most of the games that he's in, I would say, even the bad games that he's in, like some of the generic era Mario games, he's still one of the highlights, I would say. Even though he was the only boss in Super Mario Bros. Wonder, I liked his design in that game. So I definitely think it's fair to put Bowser Jr. in S tier. I also like, and it's really cool how he was also like a supporting character in both Origami King as well as Bowser's Fury. That was really cool as well. And then also his original appearance in Sunshine is also amazing too. How like he originally was disguised as Shadow Mario, that had like the whole reveal of being Bowser Jr. in disguise. That was really cool and just an amazing introduction for him. But yeah, I think Bowser Jr. is definitely a pretty great character.
I would say that he definitely is deserving to be an S tier, above King Boo.
Yeah.
But considering the significance he has to the Mario series, maybe technically he should go above Wario and Waluigi, but before you do that, he does get some points off for being the only boss in Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Yeah.
By the time I beat the game after seeing him a whopping 4 times without any other bosses, I'm just at a loss for words, because with Super Mario Bros. Wonder, you look at the enemy variety, and there's no shortage of creativity. I'd say a good chunk of the enemies are new, probably more new ones than old ones. So why is the only boss Bowser Jr.? I don't understand it.
Yeah, that is just weird. But another one that's pretty interesting, and I love the fact that this character is becoming more utilized as a playable character, is Petey Piranha. I think Petey Piranha is just a pretty like great boss character in general. Like, obviously in Sunshine, his boss was pretty cool. I love the fact that he was utilized in New Super Mario Bros. DS. Like, considering like how like just generic and uninteresting a lot of the bosses are like in the other New Super Mario Bros. Games, it was just really cool seeing him in a 2D Mario game with New Super Mario Bros. DS. But yeah, and also like he's kind of defeated in a somewhat similar way to how he was in like Sunshine as well, since you like bounce on his belly there as well to defeat him. And his model is kind of interesting as well in that game, but also the other games he's utilized in as well. Like he's in a lot of the Mario sports games, in Mario Kart, and I just think Petey Piranha is definitely pretty iconic, and Piranha Plants are actually my favorite Mario enemy, tied with Dry Bones, so that's another reason why I really like Petey Piranha.
I'm sure Super Mario Bros. Wonder helped him become one of your favorites with Dry Bones. Because that's second level. Yeah, that definitely made me love Piranha Plants even more, but
Oh, yeah.
Petey Piranha is a great character, and I'm glad he's utilized in the spin-offs. Also, a fun boss fight was in Super Princess Peach, where you literally have to cry when Petey Piranha is laughing, and then you jump on him. That was really clever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely goes in A tier.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a little bit above Cammy, but lower than Kamek.
Yeah, or did you mean S tier? Because that's where they are.
Yeah, S tier.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would put him in between the Magic Koopas there. I think he definitely deserves S tier, honestly, just due to how well he's utilized. But yeah, even though he is in some of the generic games, I think he's one of the most interesting inclusions in the generic games, honestly. But moving on, we have another, like, really interesting one that I'm kind of, like, somewhat indifferent on, because I think he's pretty cool, but, like, he's not really utilized too much, but in the ways that he's utilized, I feel like it's pretty interesting. So we have Gooper Blooper. So this one appears kind of periodically. Like, I'm honestly, like, the Mario franchise kind of treats Gooper Blooper a little weird, because some of the appearances are kind of different in some of the games. Like, sometimes Gooper Blooper has a very different appearance, like in Sticker Star. Like, his design was, like, kind of different since he was, like, associated with, like, poison and everything. But yeah, I think Gooper Blooper is pretty interesting, I would say. And his boss in Sunshine was just, like, pretty weird as well, so you have, like, to pull the tentacles off of him. It's just, like, kind of an interesting Mario boss. It, like, kind of appears, like, every once in a while, I would say.
I would say that I'm definitely more of a fan. The Party Pooper Gooper Blooper. So I would put him in B tier.
Yeah, I think
maybe a little bit below Wart.
Yeah.
But he's really cool.
So next up, we have definitely one of my favorites, honestly. Oh,
I have Chortles!
I love Fawful so much. Like, Fawful is just, like, just his personality, just, like, with how, like, just how crazy and just over the top he is as a villain, and just, like, how he's kind of started off as, like, basically kind of like a henchman alongside, Cackletta, which we'll get into Cackletta in a little bit. But, Fawful is just great. And then in Bowser's Inside Story, he's the main villain, and he does all sorts of wacky stuff with the Dark Star, and is basically like the final boss, and just, like, he's just, like, such an interesting villain, and I feel like he's definitely one of the best, like, I mean, even though he only appeared as a villain in one other game, well, he was technically in 3 games, since he was, like, in Partners in Time as well, but, like, 2 games as a villain, but definitely one of the best, like, villains that has appeared in, like, a couple different games. But, like, honestly, like, I think he kind of, like, partially defines the Mario and Luigi series. Like, since the Mario and Luigi series is just a very, like, wacky and interesting series, and I feel like Fawful as a villain kind of encapsulates that energy, I would say. His design is amazing. Like, honestly, one of the best character designs in the franchise, I would say. And, like, the fact that he has, like, his kind of, like, his, brainwashed army in Bowser's Inside Story is really cool as well. Like, he's just one of the most, like, interesting, unpredictable, crazy, wacky Mario villains, and definitely an S tier one. Honestly, I think he should go close to the top.
I think so too. There's just so much to love about Fawful. I love how crazy he is. His role in Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story specifically is great. I love that he was the main antagonist of the game. And yeah, like I say, with all the Mario RPG characters that I like, Why isn't he in any of the spin-offs? He's a perfect candidate for Mario Kart. I don't know why Pink Gold Peach takes priority, but I will say, what's funny about Fawful is a bootleg Mario game from Russia, being Mario 4: A Space Odyssey, has a Fawful head as the final boss. So knowing that Dmitry, Igor, and Pavel in some basement in Russia acknowledge the Mario RPGs more than Nintendo, that says a lot. But us as fans, he's going into S tier.
Yeah, where would we... I think he honestly, just as a villain, I would say I would put him slightly above Wario and Waluigi, just because of how how interesting of a villain he is.
I would say so too.
Yeah, he definitely deserves to be close to the top here. But yeah, next up we have Cackletta, another very interesting villain in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. I just think she's pretty cool in general, just with how it's kind of weird how she's portrayed in parts of the game, since you end up fighting her soul, she kind of gets merged with Bowser in the game, when she when Fawful kind of puts her soul into the vacuum helmet thing there. Just a pretty weird and interesting villain. I definitely like Cackletta a lot and everything. Not as much as Fawful, because I feel like Fawful definitely outshines her, but still a very cool villain in general, and definitely kind of partially defines Superstar Saga's story and everything. But yeah,
I would say that Fawful is still more interesting, so she wouldn't be placed as high, but she's still a great character. I definitely have more attachment to more of the other Mario RPG characters, especially some of those coming up, but yeah, I would say wherever you place her, I think I'll agree, because I'm kind of indifferent.
I'm thinking of S tier, but a little below Cammy, because I think Cammy is a little more iconic.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, but moving on, we have one that I like quite a lot. I actually like this character a little more than the main antagonist of Thousand Year Door, and that's Wart. He's just so goofy and just pretty funny as a villain. I think he's just a really great villain in general, how he appears. He almost, I mean this in the best way possible, but he's basically a bootleg Eggman, basically. But I mean that in the best way possible, because just with his whole thing surrounding his mechs and the robots and everything, with Magnus von Grapple and Magnus von Grapple 2.0, and he's really kind of the face of throughout the game of the X-Nauts, even though Brodus kind of is the whole leader of the X-Nauts. I feel like Brodus kind of Lord Crump encapsulates most of the weird, crazy energy that you get from the X-Nauts in Thousand Year Door, and just pretty great in general. I would say he definitely deserves S tier, honestly. Honestly, I would say he's definitely one of my favorites from the Paper Mario series.
I would agree, but I would also say that if anyone gives him flack for being bootleg Eggman, hey, at least he's in a game that's actually good.
Yeah, but
no, Sonic games can be good.
Yeah, especially Sonic Adventure 2, but I'll put Lord Crump slightly above Petey Piranha, I would say. But yeah, moving on, another one that I really like, not as good as Crump in my opinion, but still very good. There are some people who don't like Brodus as much, but I still think Brodus is pretty good, I would say. And I think he's
I love its theme.
Yeah, his design is amazing. And yeah, his theme is one of the best battle themes in the game. I can't wait to hear how it is in the remake. And how he's written is great as well. I love that he has his computer is a Famicom disk system. That's pretty cool. And okay, this is spoilers for Thousand Year Door. In case anyone hasn't played Thousand Year Door yet, I think it's funny at the end of the game that he's still alive, but the only part of him that's left is his head. He's just like his head and his eyes are left. I think that because he's basically just like a kind of like a cyborg big computer thing, basically. So I think it's kind of funny that the only part of him that's left is his head at the end of the game. That's pretty funny.
I would say so too. I will say, like you said, even though he's the leader of the X-Nauts, he's not as iconic. But regardless, he's still a great character. So I would put him in A tier.
Yeah, I would say, what do you put him at the top of A tier? I would say, because I think he's, like...
I would put him below Roy.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so moving on. So, of course, obviously, spoilers for Thousand Year Door before we even mention this one. But Shadow Queen, I mean, yeah, a lot of people mention that, like, she's really just, like, the final boss and everything. But, like, the whole lore and, like, concept behind Shadow Queen and the fact that, like, she possesses Peach is just, like, really, really interesting and really cool to see in, like, a Mario game. I just, like... And just, like, the fact that she, like... I think it's really interesting that she technically, like, doesn't die at the end of Thousand Year Door. Like, when you defeat her, you're only sealing her away. So she's effectively one of the most powerful Mario villains, aside from maybe a couple others that we'll mention later on. But even though she doesn't, like, do too much in the game, I still think she's definitely worthy of A tier.
I gotta say that too, and it's really cool that the way that the final boss plays out and how she takes control of Peach, it's really cool. And it is a little bit similar to another villain, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Well, actually, two of them. One is obviously more obvious. The other one, not so much. But yeah, A tier is good.
Yeah.
I would put Shadow Queen above Smithy and the leader of the X-Nauts, Grotus.
Yeah, actually, you know, I would say probably tied with Rotus for me, but like, for the sake of the tier list, I'll put her a little above. But yeah, moving on, we have.
Now I haven't played Partners in Time, so I wouldn't be able to rank them.
I haven't beaten Partners in Time yet, so but I think like I do know a little bit about the Shroobs and everything, but Princess Shroob, I feel is a pretty cool character, just like with representing like the Shroobs and everything, and is just like pretty interesting and dark, like for the Mario universe. I mean, I guess technically Shadow Queen is also kind of dark as well, but like with the fact with how they're taking over the Mushroom Kingdom, like just like kind of taking like a lot of like the like in Partners in Time, one part that I do remember about it so far is like the factory that they have where they're sucking like the life essence out of the toads. I mean, maybe a lot of Sticker Star haters and well, like myself would might like that. But yeah, I know it's pretty dark. And just like the Shroobs are like just really cool as well. I need to play more of Partners in Time to really see it play out more, but I think like Princess Shroob and Elder Princess Shroob are both like pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely got to play more of it, but I think they're pretty cool characters.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure where I should rank them honestly, since I haven't fully played through Partners in Time, but I still really like the characters in general. I'm thinking maybe like just as a safe, like maybe the top of B tier, I would say, just as a safe like placement, I would say, just because I know some about the characters, but like I need to play more of Partners in Time, so I'm just gonna place them there for now. But moving on, okay, so this next character is pretty interesting. So, Dry Bowser. On one hand, I really like how he's, like, portrayed in New Super Mario Bros. As a boss. Because, like, in that game, that's really cool. How he, like, ends up, like, like Bowser basically just like seemingly burns to death at World 1 of New Super Mario Bros. And then comes back as Dry Bowser. That is really cool in that game.
It's really cool, and it's really surprising for a Mario game. It is, I gotta say, pretty shocking then, and even looking back at it.
But one thing about Dry Bowser that definitely takes some points off of him is how they portrayed him during the generic era of Mario. Because they basically used him as a stand-in for, like, other villains, basically. Like, in Mario Kart, they used him as a character there, like a separate standalone character, even though he's just an alt of Bowser, basically. And then, I think in, like, Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, I think, he was a secret boss. That didn't even make any sense for that game. Like, they should have used a Paper Mario character as a secret boss. Like,
well, to be fair, they should have used Paper Mario characters in general.
Yeah.
I don't think that if they didn't care about using them for the full game, they would care about having one as a final boss.
Or the secret boss, but yeah, like, it just seems like Dry Bowser, originally, as a concept, he was amazing as a concept, but, like, the fact that they kind of poorly utilized him during, like, the generic era of Mario and acted like, oh, this is the only other cool villain that Mario has fought, and they just completely ignore all the other, like, cool RPG characters and everything. That just, like, it kind of takes them down a few, like, places in the ranking, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that was just a symptom of generic Mario. I don't really think it's Dry Bowser's fault, but I still think that he's worthy of going in A tier.
Yeah.
I would honestly, just personally, put him below Ludwig, but above King Bob-omb.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, personally, I would say, I'm just thinking, like, just to how I think, like, he was, like, kind of mishandled during the generic era, I would say probably the top of B tier for me, honestly.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, because, like, amazing concept from the beginning, but, like, just kind of poorly handled later on. That's just kind of my opinions on him. Okay, we're moving on to the Super Paper Mario villains. Okay, these ones are just... Honestly, I love all of these villains, like, just in general, but we're gonna start off with Count Bleck here, which I would probably say is my second favorite. Count Bleck is just an amazing character. Like, honestly, one of the best written Mario characters ever. Like, his whole story, like, with his tragic story with, like, Tippy and everything, and, like, the whole love story that they have there, and the fact that he kind of, like, kind of went into, like, the tribe of darkness and everything, and, like, just became, like, very, like, nihilistic, and, just wanted to, like, wipe out, like, the, like, whole universe and everything. It's just, like, a very, like, well-written, tragic character, and just, like, absolutely amazing in general. Just utilized just so well in the game, honestly. Like, what are your thoughts on him?
I think that his story is great. It's one of the highlights of Super Paper Mario. And I gotta say, it is pretty emotional. I'd say maybe a bit too deep for Mario games. But that's what makes the game stand out. I would say that he is definitely in the higher tier of Mario villains. I would put him probably... This is a tough one. Probably a little bit below Kamek.
Honestly, in my opinion, I would put him, like, a little below Fawful. That, just because of how, like... Because honestly, I would feel like he would work well as, like, a villain in, like, a movie or a book. I feel like that's how like, well written in, like, great he is, I would say. But yeah,
let's come to a compromise and put him above Bowser Jr.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so moving on, Nastasia. For some reason, like, a while ago, I used to, like, or when I was a kid, I used to think her name was Natasha, for some reason, just due to how, like, similar her name is to that. But, I think she's another, like, interesting character as well. Because she's, like, like, because, like, her origin is kind of interesting as well, because I think, like, she's originally, like, she was, like, originally, like, a bat, or something like that, like how Plek found, like after, I think it was like after losing, like Tippy or something like that. I forgot where it was exactly, but, I think it was pretty cool, like how she is, and, I think it's pretty interesting, like how she, like, is kind of like the one, like, brainwashing a lot of the characters as well.
I think she's an interesting character, definitely an interesting sort of Kamek companion for Count Bleck. I don't have too much of an opinion on her, though.
Yeah.
So,
I would say
I'm kind of indifferent.
I would say probably A tier, maybe a little below Smithy, I would say. That's probably where I would put her. But moving on, we have Ochunks. And Ochunks is another, like, pretty cool, like, silly, like, villain as well. I think he's pretty cool. And, like, I mean, a lot of people, like, a lot of people who criticize Super Paper Mario, I've seen people bring up, like, oh, he was just added in, he has, like, the fart joke at the end of his boss fight, but he's still a pretty funny and interesting character. Like, I like his design. Like, his design, is pretty cool and silly and everything. I'm
all for silly characters, and the fart joke probably should place him in either B or A tier.
Yeah. I would say probably, like, I would say A tier, maybe, kind of in between, Goomba King and, Pulex, I would say.
Well, I'd say maybe he goes below Culex.
Yeah, that's fair. So next we have Mimi. Okay, Mimi is a really interesting one. Like, kind of looking into, like, Chapter 2 and everything. I love how she, like, turns into, like, the creepy, mechanical spider thingy. Like, just that whole sequence where her head is just, like, spinning around, and she just, like, morphs into that spider thing. That is just, like, really, like, a really cool and creepy thing to see in a Mario game. And that was just really iconic. And I also like her whole role in, like, Chapter 2, like, just basically, like, just having, like, a bunch of people, like, working for her, like, you basically are forced to, like, basically work for her and, like, basically, like, kind of, like, grind for, like, those, ruby things. That was pretty funny, but... And then also the quiz show, where you have to, like, guess between her and, one of the other characters. I thought that was pretty funny. So, yeah, and then later in the game, she has some, really interesting moments as well, but, Mimi is definitely a pretty great character.
Mimi is so creepy! I remember playing Super Paper Mario for the first time, and the do. Oh, what the hell is this? I would say just for the shock value, she's one of the most memorable Paper Mario characters. The thing with Super Paper Mario is a lot of the characters don't have the best designs. They're very geometric and not always look the best. But I will say, Mimi's works out quite well. It's kind of like origami.
Yeah.
In a really freaky spider way. But just for the memorability and shock value, I would say she goes in A tier.
Yeah. Where in A tier would you say she could go?
I would say definitely above Natasha.
Okay. I wouldn't say above Smithy, because I really liked Smithy, but, yeah, that's a pretty good placement. But moving on, another really cool one, and honestly, another one of my favorites, is Mr. L. Mr. L is just an amazing concept in general. Like, the fact that you actually, like, see, like, a brainwashed Luigi and like fight him, and he like takes on like a whole other personality. Like he has like the theme with his with his mech with the Brobot, and just like it's just really cool in general. It's kind of like an extension on the idea of like basically Peach being possessed in Thousand Year Door, but like a kind of a different idea of that with like Mr. L basically just being like an evil version of Luigi with like a different personality and everything. His design is amazing and iconic. There's a reason why you see like Mr. L in so many like mods for like Mario Kart and different things. Like just an amazing design in general.
I just would say about Mr. L, the concept is amazing, design's amazing. It's really cool seeing a brainwashed villain version of Luigi. I just wish it was utilized more. Even if it was in more Paper Mario games, or better utilized in Super Paper Mario, I think that'd be really cool. But he's one of my favorite Paper Mario villains, so I would put him in S tier.
Yeah.
I would put him actually above Kamek, or actually below Kamek.
Okay. Maybe a little above Lord Crump due to how iconic he is. But yeah. And then also like the final boss is technically kind of associated with Mr. L as well. So like with the whole like Dimentio thing and everything with Super Dimentio. But yeah, kind of speaking of Dimentio, Dimentio is actually my favorite Mario villain and one of my favorite characters of all time. I love his design. I love his like really interesting and crazy personality, and like the fact that he is one of the most powerful villains like ever, basically, like comparing both Mario and like everything, because he's basically like about to like just reset the universe, and like and I think even towards the end of like the very end of the game, like basically kind of like destroy the universe in general. Like the fact that he's like that much of a threat, like even bigger of a threat than Count Bleck, and the whole twist and everything with him basically ending up being like the whole like the like main antagonist like all along, and just like after like Count Bleck is defeated and everything, like that is just like amazing. And the fact that he has like the ability to create like new dimensions, like with Dimension D in Super Paper Mario, like where you fight him during some of his boss fights. In Super Dimentio, even though that's kind of an easy final boss, like conceptually and story-wise, it's one of the coolest things to ever happen in the Mario franchise. So, I think Dimentio is just honestly, like, just, I would say he's my favorite, like, Mario villain in general. Just, like, he's just really cool in general.
I gotta say, I like Fawful more. And I like Bowser more. But he's a great villain. I would say that, I mean, personally, I would place him below Bowser Jr. simply because of how iconic Bowser Jr. is. And I also like King Boo more. So, maybe come to a compromise and above Mr. L for me.
Okay, well...
But if he's your favorite, we gotta do some math here.
I was thinking... I want to put him a little above Fawful, just since he's my, like, absolute favorite and everything.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, but Bowser, I think he kind of deserves to be on the top, like, just since he's, like, really, like, he's the Mario villain. But Dimentio is just a really cool and iconic character in general. He kind of reminds me, like, I feel like there's, like, some other... He kind of has, like, a vibe that some other characters have as well. I mean, of course, like, the other Jester-like characters, like Marks from Kirby, and then, there's Jevil from Deltarune, also is very similar to Dimentio in a lot of ways. And he also kind of reminds me of, like, Bill Cipher a little bit from Gravity Falls. So, I think he kind of, like, has, like, a few different, like, character types to him that just makes him so interesting.
I would say so, too. So I think his placement, I wouldn't rank him as high as you would, but still fair placement.
But yeah, moving on, we have Super Mario Galaxy, and we have Dino Piranha. So, the one with, I was kind of debating on whether I should put it on the tier list or not, but Dino Piranha did appear in a few different games, but, like, both Galaxy games as well as, like, some of the spin-offs. Like, I think they're in some of the Mario and Sonic games, like a few of them, I think. So, but yeah, I really like the design. I really like how they're kind of like an extension of like Petey Piranha's design and kind of like took it in like a little different direction. It's just pretty interesting in general. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Dino Piranha?
I would say that it's a really clever boss, especially as the first one. He's not as iconic as Petey Piranha, but he's still a really cool character. So, I don't know where I would place him. I'm kind of indifferent towards him. I'd probably put him in B tier.
Yeah, that's fair.
Though I'm not sure where.
I'm thinking maybe
probably toward the end.
Maybe a little above Gooper Blooper, I would say.
I think that's fine.
Because I think his design is a little cooler than Gooper Blooper, I would say. And the boss fight, I would say, is slightly better, but yeah. So moving on, we have another Magic Koopa character, Camella. This one's kind of like less talked about, I would say, but I still really like her design. I like her boss fight. But weirdly, she doesn't really appear that much. I don't think she was in Galaxy 2. I might be wrong, but I don't remember her being in Galaxy 2. But, kind of an interesting character. Not as good as Kamek or Cammy, but still, like, kind of an interesting character regardless.
Yeah, I would say so too. She's definitely an interesting character, definitely has the witch motif, which is interesting, though not as iconic as Cammy or Kamek. So I think B tier is fine.
Yeah. I would say maybe on the higher end of B tier, I would say maybe a little above Foreman Spike. I
like Tatanga more, so
actually,
maybe in the middle of it.
Yeah, I think maybe a little, maybe XOR should go above too. That's fair. Another one that I really like, Midbus, is a pretty cool character as well. I really like how he's kind of like a rival to Bowser, kind of like in terms of like size and strength and everything. His design is pretty cool as well. Like the boss fight is also really good as well. But
it's cool that Bowser has an actual rival. Like, I know Mario is his arch enemy, but having an actual rival that's the size and strength of Bowser, and the similarities between the two. I love his design, he's such a cool character. And like I always say, why isn't he in Mario Kart?
Yeah!
At least he's in Custom Track Grand Prix 7, so that counts, right? But I'd love to see him more. I would place him in S tier.
Oh yeah, I think he definitely deserves S tier. I'm not sure... Maybe a little above Cackletta. I think I like him a little more than Cackletta, I would say.
I would say above Mr. L, to be honest.
Yeah, actually... I'm not sure, because I like Lord Crump a little more... Okay, maybe I'll do a compromise and put him a little above Petey and a little below Lord Crump.
That's a good compromise. Oh, wow! You thought Boom Boom was enough? Well, why didn't he get his sister, Pom Pom? Okay, here's the thing. I actually kind of like Pom Pom. For one, her boss fights are way more fun, and they're actually boss fights, so that's something. She's only in Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World, and a few in the spin-offs. I actually think... Was she in Super Mario Party? Well, Boom Boom wasn't. That's so weird.
Yeah, she was. That was
I mean,
really
it goes
weird.
to show that she's a superior character, but it's kind of like in Mario Tennis Power Tour. I think that's what it's called, or Mario Tennis. The one on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah,
that game, it's kind of weird because that had Waluigi, but not Wario. So having Pom Pom in a game without Boom Boom, that's kind of weird. But you know what? I'd say it's fair to put her in a B tier.
Yeah.
I would put her above Dino Piranha.
Yeah, that's a pretty good placement, I would say. So moving on, we have Antasma. And Antasma is pretty interesting since he was a character like during kind of like, I mean, Dream Team was one of the only games during the generic era. Well, one of, I guess technically, specifically the RPG, since I mean Mario Kart 8 was also an interesting game during the generic era, but it was really cool to actually see like another like original Mario villain around that time, because there were like barely any others. Like just looking at the gap that we went from, like we went from like 2009 with Midbus to like 2011 with Pom Pom, and then now we're looking at 2013, where a lot of these characters were like only like a year or two apart, like Superstar Saga, or well, 1 year apart, like Superstar Saga: The Thousand Year Door, to Partners in Time, to a New Super Mario Bros, to Super Paper Mario, like all of those. Like we looked at villains from like almost every year, but there's like kind of a gap between like some of the villains here. But Antasma is pretty cool. I really like his design, and I mean, even though you eventually do fight Bowser at like the very end of Dream Team, and Bowser still is an antagonist, I still really like Antasma. Like I still think he's
very cool antagonist, and especially from the era that was the bland era of Mario. I haven't beat Dream Team, so I don't have that strong of opinions, but I love the design, and it's cool getting something creative out of the generic era.
Yeah. I would say probably A tier. I would say, I'm not sure, maybe a little below Cool X.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But yeah, moving on, we actually have the villain of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. And that is...
Wingo! Wait, is that what Quip said in regular show? No, it was Zingo, but I just wanted to make the joke. Zingo!
But, another... I mean, Captain Toad is another, like, outlier of the generic era, but Wingo is really cool. Honestly, Wingo actually reminds me of Wart in a lot of ways, but I mean, I would say that Wingo is a little better than Wart, I would say.
I would say so too, because Wingo's story is more developed.
Yeah.
Like, you get to see Wingo capture Captain Toad and Captain Toadette. And Wingo's story is pretty cool. And I think the reason why he reminds you of Wart is because the theming is based on the Middle East for Super Mario Bros. 2, and to an extent Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. So there are the similarities there, and I feel like in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, having Wart as a villain would be so fitting.
Yeah.
Actually, if they went all out, I mean, there are Shy Guys. It has a lot of Mario 2 elements to it.
Yeah.
Turnip.
Yeah.
But I would put Wingo in A tier.
Yeah.
But if Wingo is above Wart for you. But there's one more thing I have to say about Wingo before we move on. No!
Actually, should I... I'm not sure where I should, put him on here. Maybe a little below Junior Troopa, I would say.
I would say so too. Although I do like Wingo more, so maybe a little bit higher, but it's a compromise.
Yeah. But moving on, we have one of the only original characters from Paper Mario Color Splash. And I'm surprised that this even made it in, considering how restrictive they were of characters in Color Splash. But this is actually a pretty cool character. But Shy Bandit is actually a surprisingly good character, I would say. Definitely, like, one of the best villains from, well, I mean, there's very few villains in modern Paper Mario, but he's definitely one of the best, I would say. Like, his whole theming is just really cool. It is almost kind of like an extension of, like, Anti-Guy, which was one of the bosses in Stronger Characters in Paper Mario 64. So, since it's like a black Shy Guy that's like a lot stronger than the other Shy Guys, that's kind of like rolling with that concept a little bit. And Shy Bandit is just like really cool in general. Like, and I like the whole like world map gimmick as well. Like with the fact that he's like sucking like the paint out of like a certain level, so you have to like get over to him in the world map. That's actually one of the like more interesting concepts with Color Splash. And even though I didn't really like the world map concept that much, I feel like the way that they handled Shy Bandit was actually pretty cool. Shy Bandit actually seems like a character that would have been in like 64 or 1000 Year Door. Actually, especially 1000 Year Door, considering like the fact that it's like kind of like he's kind of like a thief, kind of. I think that would definitely be pretty fitting in that game. So I think he's just a great character in a game that I don't really like.
Yeah, I would say, from what you're saying, I didn't even know about the character. I didn't play much of Color Splash, because Sticker Star was just unbelievably terrible. I didn't want anything to do with the true successor to it. But, yeah, I would say that whichever ranking you place him in, I don't have an opinion, really.
Yeah, I would
say... But
say...
he seems like a cool character.
I would say maybe the top of B tier, I would say. Because I'm just thinking...
I will say, though, I do have an opinion about the next characters, though.
So, yeah. I'll actually let you start, since you have some opinions on them.
Alright, the Broodals in Super Mario Odyssey. After years of just getting the Koopalings, it was cool seeing a new group of minions work for Bowser. And their wedding planners that are bunnies. Their designs are great. I love seeing them in the game, but the boss fights are just super lame. So, I'm kind of conflicted here.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of weird. We don't, like... I like the concept behind them and their designs, but I feel like all the other bosses in Odyssey, like, outshine them so much, because there's so many, like, actually really cool and interesting bosses in Odyssey. I mean, like, even, like, Madame Brood has, like, a more interesting boss than, like, the other, Broodals. But I'm not sure. Where do you think we should rank them?
I would say C tier.
That's fair. I mean, we need something for C tier, honestly. Maybe a little above Kuupa Kid, I would say, because at least design-wise...
I'd say maybe below.
I don't know, because I think Kuupa Kid is, like, a bit more generic in the design. At least the Broodals have, like, a somewhat interesting design to them, but... Yeah, I wish...
This is gonna be an interesting next one, though.
Okay. So the next one, you know, even though a lot of people do not like this character, I actually kind of like Ollie. Not one of my favorites, I'll say that, but I like his design. I think his design is cool, and I don't, like, I know his motivation is stupid, but I think that was intentional, because I think, like, with Ollie, I think they were supposed to make him into, like, a crazy, like, nonsensical character. I think they were trying to make him look more selfish as a character, I would say, and just, like, too caught up with himself, and kind of, like, making everything into, like, origami, and, like, just, like, and I know it has, like, the whole, like, implications of him being, like, racist towards, like, toads and everything, but honestly, the thing is, I think he just lacked, like, or I think he had, like, a lot of missing potential. Like, he had a lot of potential, but, like, I feel like he really should have been utilized more in Origami King. That's more of my issue with him, but I still think, I still like him a lot more than most people do. I think, like, it was really refreshing finally seeing, like, an actual interesting villain again, other than Bowser in a Paper Mario game. And I don't think it was handled badly. I thought it was handled, like, decently well, I would say. Like, even though his motivation was kind of weird.
Yeah, his motivation was weird, and I will say, I'm not too crazy about his design. He's pretty much just an emo prince. Or king.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what he is. But I will say a new villain's pretty refreshing, regardless. So I would say
Yeah.
B tier.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I would say maybe a little, maybe at the top of B tier, I would say, because like I feel like if he was utilized more and written a little better, I think he could have pushed into A tier. But B tier is definitely pretty fair for Ollie. Um,
With the
yeah.
next character from your favorite game, Mario Golf Super Rush.
Yeah, this one I
You
feel
know,
like,
out of all games, I'm shocked that that had a new villain.
yeah, that like, and honestly, it's not a bad villain either. Like, I think he was like kind of utilized pretty well. He has a cool design, even though the only like render that I could find of him online has him doing a T pose. Because I mean, like the Mario sports games, I feel like it's like one of those things where like a lot of Mario fans don't really care about him too much to like fully make like a render of him in like Blender and everything. I don't think like there's any like die-hard Mario Golf fans that would go out of their way to do that. That's really like the people who are fans of like the mainline games or the RPGs who do stuff like that. But like Snow King, I think is a very underrated character, I would say. If only he was in a different game. If only he was like a boss in a mainline Mario game, or even like even one of the Mario RPGs would have been fitting as well. Like I think it's cool that he's basically like a king version of like the Mr. Blizzard's kind of. Well, I mean, I know Mr. Blizzard from Sticker Star is also kind of like that, but I think Snow King is a better representation of that. And is definitely designed better, has a more, like, interesting design, and I really hope he comes back in another game, like, maybe a boss in a 3D Mario game, or maybe even, like, even one of the bosses in one of the Mario RPGs. I think that would be cool. I think he has a lot of potential, and it's kind of a shame that he's, like, stuck in, like, kind of, like, one of the Switch Mario sports games. Like, I mean, yeah, like, in my opinion, Mario Golf Super Rush, well, it's like, it's not a very good game. Like, even though I do say it's a guilty pleasure, but I still kind of enjoyed it. But, man, I wish Snow King was in another game, honestly.
I will say I'm a little more forgiving towards Mario Golf Super Rush because of inclusions like Snow King. And also, I feel like, with the amount of content that it has, I think it justifies at least being a game. Maybe overpriced at $60, but definitely better than Mario Strikers Battle League. Although I think Mario Tennis Aces has strong gameplay, just like content as well. But
Yeah.
regardless, still a cool character. Snow King is pretty underrated.
I would see...
So I'd probably put him in B tier.
Yeah, I would say B tier a little... I'm not sure if I should put him above or below Ollie. Maybe a little below Ollie, just due to how, like refreshing it was to see a new villain in a Paper Mario game. But yeah, I would say probably between Ollie and Shy Bandit would be fair. But moving on...
Now with this next villain, there are some major spoilers ahead. So, if you haven't played Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, I would highly suggest clicking off now. But with Cursa, remember how we were talking about Shadow Queen and Mr. L?
Yeah.
Well, essentially, Cursa is like that, but
yeah.
for Rosalina. And you get to see Cursa's motivation and more of the character develop as the game progresses. And at first, Cursa is like some weird force. But then you see what Cursa actually is. And Cursa is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
I would say that Cursa goes into S tier. I would say above Mr. L.
Yeah.
Simply because Cursa was utilized way better.
I kind of disagree, but, I would say maybe a little, this is my opinion just because I love Lord Crump, I would say maybe a little above Midbus, I would say. Just because I just like some of the RPG characters a little more. But, Cursa is a pretty great villain, I would say. I definitely agree, just, like, with the way that like Ursa is handled and everything. It just like really cool in general, and just like the fact that she's like a possessed, or well, she possesses Rosalina and everything, and that is just really cool in general. But yeah, so moving on to the final and most recent villain here, we have Madame Grape, and this is another one that I really like, and I think this is definitely, I feel like this character definitely has a lot of potential for future games and everything. Like just her design is really cool. I really like how like the whole like Sour Bunch thing that she has like with the villains and everything. It like the fact that she kind of like summons all of these like really cool creative bosses is cool. And the final boss is also absolutely amazing as well. Like the music is good in her boss. Like it's just like, I think she's a really good villain, I would say. I feel like she has the potential to be like almost as good as King Boo, I would say. Like if she appears in more games. Like
Absolutely. And I gotta say, for a villain for Peach, having the villain be Grape is just so fitting. Because
Yeah.
while peaches are sweet, grapes are sour. I love her design, and also, we don't get to see many female villains in Mario games. And having one as the main antagonist is super cool. They could have just gone for basic Bowser, but no. They decided to go for a brand new villain, and I'm going to be talking about this a lot in my review of Princess Peach Showtime. But Grape is a great character. I gotta put Grape in S tier. I gotta say, Kamek's more iconic, but she goes above Mr. L. But I know it's gonna be Lord Crump who rigs the poll once again.
You know what? I think I think I will put her between Mr. L
He's
and
gonna
Lord
do
Crump.
it! He's gonna do it! He did it! Finally, someone above Lord Crump.
I think I like Lord Crump a little more than most people. You know, honestly, I think we should move Donkey Kong up a little bit. Just like looking at the tier list now. I don't think do you agree? I think he should go in S tier, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's kind of weird having him placed that
Yeah.
low. I would say that, yeah, he goes above Lord Crump. I would say that he would go probably below Kamek. Or maybe between Bowser Jr. and King Boo.
Actually, I would put probably a little below Kamek, just due to the fact that, I mean, like, I feel like at this point, because of like I feel like he's kind of, well, one, he's like, I feel like he's more of just like an iconic villain, because I feel like just like villains like Count Bleck or King Boo, Fawful, and Bowser have kind of like outshined him in some ways, and then it combined with the fact that he's also kind of partially known as a protagonist, even more so than Wario. So I feel like that's partly why he isn't as high. I mean, as a character, I think it would definitely be close to like the top, the absolute top. Like if this was a character ranking, but like as a villain, I would say like a little below Kamek is fine. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good like tier list here. Do you think we should move anything into D, or do you think like this whole thing is? Do you think Boom Boom deserves that gap between C tier?
I would say Boom Boom deserves the split or place he's in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he kind of deserves that slight gap there. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good ranking here. I feel like with the villains, I think there's definitely a lot to talk about. That's why this video was a little longer than others. Because I mean, we did have some disagreements, which made the conversation a little more interesting about like some of these villains and everything. Because Mario has like quite a lot of really cool and interesting villains, even if it may seem that they only use Bowser a lot of the time. There are like a wide variety of a lot of really cool villains, and I'm glad now that they're like remaking games like Super Mario RPG, Thousand Year Door, and then making games with new villains like Peach Showtime. I'm glad that a lot of people are experiencing these games with, like, really cool and interesting villains. Also, like, by extension, like, Sparks of Hope as well. So I feel like we're kind of, like, kind of entering back into an era where we see, like, more interesting Mario villains again.
Yeah, I agree. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'm Lord Crump.
And I'm Dimentio. And stay
Calm and stay perky.
perky.
Lord Crump.